So let's bring them out here and get set for our championship final match. We've got Matt Pat and JD Witherspoon facing off against each other, and Alistair versus Nairo. Matt Pat and Alistair on a team, and then Nairo and JD Witherspoon trying to bring home the championship for themselves. So get set to welcome them out to the stage. And really, as these YouTube personalities face off, we talk about how it's almost like watching your child walk because they're starting to learn more and more as the game goes on. But when you're getting introduced to this, do you think it's better to try and zone sometimes, or do you think it's better to just get up close, apply some pressure, because our YouTube personalities might not be able to read and counter quite as well as the Twitch personalities can?
I think the best thing to do is to not have tunnel vision and rely on only one strategy, because then you become a one-trick pony and you're easier to read and counter. So if you're able to actually mix it up and stay in close or zone, that's when things get difficult.
Well, let's welcome up our fighters to the stage, obviously talking about some extra strategy in the back. You've got Matt, Pat, and Alistair taking on JD Witherspoon and Nairo. Our first match will be Matt Pat taking on JD Witherspoon. JD Witherspoon already bumping those gums, talking all that trash right now to Matt Pat. Let's see if Matt Pat has got a game theory to win this one right here. And as we saw Matt Pat, he really excelled with the Empoleon and getting some pressure and some grabs. However, JD Witherspoon, his previous match, using a fine job of connecting with some of those synergy bursts, Vicky.
Yeah, what Matt Pat is going to want to look out for mostly is, although Empoleon is very slow, his moves do make up for that. He is allowed a lot of movement options out of his attacks, actually. So when he throws out that ice beam, not only can he slide in it, you have the option to do nothing out of it. But when you are in the mid-air and you press X, you kind of create an area of effect of ice that you could also use to kind of sidestep, slide away from your opponent as well.
Well, both Matt and JD are going to go with different Pokemon potentially for this match. It's going to be interesting to see who they choose. Do they go with what they had, or do they maybe go with something different here, D1, to throw their opponent off guard and not let them scout?
Yeah, right now I'm actually waiting to see. I'm not trying to, guess anything here, but it looks like JD Witherspoon, since he went with Darkrai before, I'm guessing you probably might see it again.
There it is.
There it is.
Darkrai versus Empoleon. And Vicky, we were playing the other day, and Empoleon, the burst move out of synergy mode, there's something special about that one.
His burst is actually kind of incredible because of the fact you can't shield it. It is a command grab. So the only way to counter around his burst is by jumping over it.
And that's going to certainly take some tough timing right there. We've got Darkrai versus Empoleon. Darkrai being played by JD Witherspoon. Matt Pat going to go ahead and go with Empoleon right now. Some early pressure being applied by JD Witherspoon, trying to zone Empoleon. Maybe some coaching provided by Nairo, we'll see. Meanwhile, Alistair with some advice for Matt Pat. Empoleon getting a couple early hits on Darkrai, and already we see Empoleon getting in the face of Darkrai and applying some pressure here, D1.
So the main thing you saw there is that at first, JD Witherspoon was doing an impressive job of zoning with the Dark Pulse, but what happened was, finally, we saw Matt Pat opt to go with the Ice Beam to get inside and use that slide.
And you can't hear them right now, but JD Witherspoon is just talking all sorts of mess to Matt Pat right now, trying to throw him off his game. And speaking of throw, gets the grab right there, and that's going to help sort of turn the tide. No synergy burst quite yet. However, you see the support Pokemon ready to go for Matt Pat. Darkrai trying to wait for that Cresselia to be ready to call at any moment's notice. We're going to go ahead and shift phases here, and Empoleon still trying to get that early pressure on Darkrai in its face up against the wall here, Vicky.
Already applying so much pressure against the wall, and this is where a lot of damage is going to be, but immediately with that grab, he's going to get the KO, and that's going to be game one to Empoleon.
And D1, Matt Pat, how about the combination of putting some pressure against your opponent in the corner on the wall? Your opponent then is going to be pretty aggressive to try and bounce back, most likely, or try to block to withstand all those attacks. Then you go in with the throw.
Which is why you saw Matt Pat actually successful right there in the last round. One thing about Empoleon too, he has some moves that can actually go through your counterattack, so it can be very scary defending against Empoleon. You want to keep him outside, which is why you see JD just trying to run away in zone.
Matt Pat took the first round. If he gets this one, that'll be a one-game victory for his team in this 3 out of 5 final championship. Empoleon, meanwhile, all that pressure up against the wall, D1. We see it time and time again.
He just keeps going in with the Aqua Jet. Finally, JD puts up the shield and gets grabbed for it.
I don't hear a whole lot of talking coming from JD at this point. facing a huge deficit, 553 to 57. Going to go ahead and deploy that synergy burst. You've got to release the Oons at this point and try to fight back against MatPat. MatPat does have a synergy burst. Reshiram right here, the support Pokemon being cold, but that's blocked by Empoleon and MatPat. Darkrai going to try with that burst move, but it doesn't connect, D1.
It just looked like JD Witherspoon trying to use everything in his arsenal to bring it back, but unfortunately, MatPat took it over.
MatPat silencing JD with an impressive victory in that second round. Wasn't even close there, Vicky.
It looked like JD was actually trying to use his burst to go through any move that MatPat was going to throw at him, but unfortunately it was just too late, and he kind of used his burst attack a little bit too early, and unfortunately missing, being crucial to the matchup.
So it's a best 3 out of 5 with the games in this championship match. So we're gonna go ahead and see MatPat and JD Witherspoon face off again. So this will be for the second game. You've got 1 game point victory already for MatPat and Alistair. MatPat trying to get a second one. That means Alistair can come in and be the clinching point potentially. Let's see if JD Witherspoon learned anything from that last matchup. We saw Empoleon D1 really apply a lot of pressure in the face of Darkrai, not where Darkrai really wants to operate, and found himself pinned up against that wall for most of the match.
Yep, again, we see JD Witherspoon trying his best zone, but once Empoleon gets inside, it looks like all that little chip damage that he was able to get doesn't quite matter, so he's gonna have to do a better job of keeping that wall up.
That grab was negated by Empoleon, and once again, just going to work the combo and the pressure up against the wall. However, Darkrai able to counter that right there, and finally getting some relief here, D1.
I actually like the fact that he was attacking more instead of trying to throw the projectile, but here it is, Empoleon striking back with that ice beam.
And Vicky, Darkrai cannot just try to get Empoleon out of the zone. It's just too much Empoleon in your face at this point.
It's so many buttons being pressed in your face, and it really does work. There was not a counter to be seen inside.
MatPat with the victory, and you know there's some questions for JD when you start to see the palms turn to the sky and the shoulders shrug at this point. Nairo trying to step up, get some coaching for JD, your boy, struggling right now at this point. However, there's still a couple more rounds that can be played. Don't count out Darkrai, but what we're seeing here, D1, Empoleon, one of those rush Pokemon, living in that rush down zone as opposed to Darkrai, the zoner, not really getting a lot of breathing room between him and Empoleon.
Yeah, let me just tell you, Alistair actually really loves Empoleon. So to have Alistair helping out MatPat, that's a big boon to him right there. And look at it already, MatPat trying to maintain that health lead, going for the grab, but this time JD Witherspoon being a little more aggressive, going right through that.
That was really smart of JD, actually, recognizing that he wanted to go for the grab when he held shield just slightly longer than he should have, and he immediately threw an attack to counter that counter.
And there it is again, we're going straight back into dual phase. Only 10 HP left on JD Witherspoon. He goes into the burst. I don't know if he's going to be able to connect it. Looking for an opportunity to confirm. Is this a chance?
Darkrai with that burst move in, yes, going to grab Empoleon. This is going to do a lot of damage here, D1.
Yes, 198 to be exact, and here is the infinite Eclipse.
However, MatPat and Empoleon still with a sizable lead, 254 to 42. Going to be able to block the support Pokemon right here. Darkrai trying to keep Empoleon guessing, however, Empoleon getting in that area where it likes to operate best, right in the face of Darkrai, Vicky.
Empoleon himself has his burst mode active right there, and he's activating it as we speak. Are we going to see the deep blue Monarch? That does a lot of damage, and right now with such a close game, it may be...
Oh, JD Witherspoon and Darkrai! Don't say goodnight yet! And here comes the talking once again, turning off the mute button once he finally wins another round here. And you love the confidence. It ain't over. You're absolutely right. We've seen comebacks before. Meanwhile, MatPat still pretty confident. That was one that, he had such a sizable lead right there, D1. Do you think MatPat got maybe a little too defensive and didn't try to go on the offensive to close this one out?
Yeah, he got a little bit too comfortable there. He said, you know what, I'm going to probably sit on my win, right, and just wait for my opponent to basically defeat himself.
So as these two teams face off, MatPat versus JD Witherspoon, it's a 3 out of 5 games for them to get 1 point. Then Alistair and Nairo will face off for another potential point. If both teams are at 1-1, we'll go to one final match that will determine the champion of our 2017 Pokkén Tournament Deluxe Invitational. But let's get you back to the action here as Darkrai at 226. Now has turned the tables, Vicky, and has Empoleon up against the wall.
That's why you don't just relax after the second game. You may have won 2, but you never know when it's going to bring back around. Right now, as we're seeing, it could be really close. Is Empoleon going to finally take it?
That Reshiram going to knock Empoleon back, and that does some major damage. And going to also decrease the attack for Empoleon. Empoleon going into burst mode at this point. 14 health just for Darkrai. A puppy kiss would knock him out at this point, but no! Empoleon with the nice cross on JD Witherspoon and able to get the KO from behind.
This Empoleon is just unstoppable, man. It's out of control. It looks like Nairo's gonna have to do a little bit more coaching on his part for JD Witherspoon.
So Matt Pat has now won 2 games. If Matt Pat can win one more game, he earns a point for the team of Matt Pat and Alistair as they advance to the next match. JD Witherspoon will have to win 3 games in a row now in order to try and get that vital point in this championship round. And so you look at JD though, we saw a little bit more of a progression with that Darkrai, able to get Empoleon turned around and even had Empoleon up against the wall at one point.
Yeah, he was applying a lot of pressure. I think one of my favorite things is seeing how he mixed up his offense. He started going in the air, opting for the dive kicks.
I saw him opt for the dive kicks a few times, but I recognized how he started using Ice Beam to go towards Darkrai first, and when he had him against the wall, that's when he applied the very most pressure that we saw amongst the entire game in dual phase.
JD Witherspoon rolling with Darkrai once again. Meanwhile, Matt Pat going to go ahead and go with Empoleon. And D1, one thing we should also point out, all these stages are different sizes. So if you're Darkrai, you're going to want a larger stage potentially. Meanwhile, Empoleon seems to be really fine operating in those smaller stages, pushing Darkrai up against the wall.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You could already see the match just started and immediately Empoleon cornering Darkrai. And also, let's not forget the synergy drops too. They're quite different depending on what stage you're on.
And what we're seeing in Empoleon, one of those rush down Pokemon that likes to be right in your face, really making life uncomfortable for Darkrai is a huge early advantage for Matt Pat, 571 to 72. Darkrai just trying to find some space, but no, Empoleon not even giving Darkrai a chance to tie his shoes, and very impressive victory by Matt Pat here, Vicky.
And as we saw around the end there, Matt Pat actually was able to use that move as an anti-air to catch him off guard and was able to follow up with even a stronger string of attacks.
JD, I'm noticing there's fewer words after a loss. There's more after a victory, though. I like the consistency I see from you, though. Never stop smiling right there. Let's get set for our next round here. Now, this is critical right here, D1, because if Empoleon gets the victory, that's the 3rd and decisive game point for Matt Pat and Alistair. That'll give them their first point of this match. Early pressure being applied by Empoleon and the nice juggle right there, D1.
Yeah, and I also notice how Empoleon is also taking to the skies, making it very difficult for Darkrai to find quarter.
542 to just 4. Darkrai's going to need all the help it can get to try to keep Empoleon away from the victory. However, that Reshiram going to do some major damage and decrease the attack. However, Darkrai trying to back up, zone out, Empoleon missing a couple times. Darkrai going to negate the throw, get some damage on Empoleon. This could be something incredible. Here we go. Synergy burst activated for Darkrai. Hanging on the ropes with just 76 health, but here you go, Vicky.
Oh, but you cannot shield that, and that is exactly what we're talking about, Jordan. You cannot shield that. You can't just shield that burst.
You can't shield it, and there's no lifeguard on duty for Darkrai, so that's going to go ahead and do it. That's going to do it for the final round. The game and the point goes to Matt Pat and Alistair and our championship match. And that's what can throw people off with that specific burst move, Vicky, because you're thinking, all I got to do is block it. I'm good. No, fam, you're going to get drowned in the water.
Absolutely not. You need to try to jump over that. That is called Deep Blue Monarch, and it deals exactly 220 HP. You have to watch out for that, and you have to keep your distance when you see Empoleon have that burst, and that's when he's able to apply all that pressure, which could be really hard to get away from.
And right now, it looks like we're going to have 2 pros take the stage.
I thought we just had some pros taking the stage. Well, Matt Pat looked like the pro versus JD Witherspoon right there. My goodness. But yes, go back. We've got 2 pros very seasoned, especially Alistair.
Yes,
Alistair been one of the staples of this community.
Yes, from the Pokkén tournament community, Alistair, a well-known Suicune main, and we have Nairo, who is actually a top-level Super Smash Bros. for Wii U professional.
Well, let's see who they go with. We have Mewtwo versus Suicune. Alistair with that Suicune. Suicune going to really enjoy zoning Mewtwo. Meanwhile, Mewtwo all around. Does Mewtwo try to get up in the face of Suicune, or does Mewtwo try to play the same game as Suicune and zone out as well, too?
This is going to be really interesting because early on, when Pokkén tournament came out for Wii U, Nairo did play Mewtwo. He had a pretty solid Mewtwo, but Alistair, he stuck to the game. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be pretty cool to see how Nairo's fundamentals as a pro player for Smash come into play here.
Nairo versus Suicune, early damage applied by Suicune. Suicune up in the face of Mewtwo, which is interesting. Typically, we see Suicune use that zoning, however, able to perfectly read Mewtwo's attacks here, Vicky.
And you can see right here, yes, Suicune does excel immensely with long range, but he's not having it right now, switching immediately to dual phase and nearly getting a perfect and landing that perfect perfect, not even taking any damage.
And I think one thing we have to keep an eye open for is that mirror coat. You saw Nairo try to zone with projectiles, but immediately Suicune absorbed that and just dished out damage with the mirror coat.
Suicune's so difficult if you're going to play that zone versus zone matchup, and usually when you've got two Pokemon that like to zone each other, it's really just a matter of out-zoning the other, using the timer as your friend. But we saw Suicune that last match really do a fine job of the up-close rush-down face-off, and right here, countering once again, knocking Mewtwo back, has Mewtwo up against the wall. Mewtwo, though, able to back off Suicune.
And right now we have Alistair not even looking at the screen as he's playing against Nairo. What is going on here?
Alistair just looking at the Jumbotron right now, and that's putting some salt in the Kool-Aid right there, folks. Meanwhile, Suicune able to get the combo on Mewtwo. Nairo just furious right now. Let's see if that applies to the playstyle of Mewtwo. Meanwhile, Alistair just so cool, calm, and composed. Here comes the support Pokemon from Mewtwo, but no! Suicune with the grab and the juggle up against the wall in the air, and this one might be over here soon, Vicky.
This man does not even need to look at the screen. When I grow up, I want to be just like Alistair. As we just see right here, Alistair taking it over Nairo.
Alistair with the KO, gonna go ahead and take that first game point. Alistair needs to win 2 more games, and that will be the championship for Matt, Pat, and Alistair. Alistair, my goodness, if you didn't believe before that Alistair was sitting on top of the throne of this community, I think that was proof right there, D1.
Yeah, this guy coming out of NorCal, super strong player, very well established in the Pokkén tournament community, and his Suicune is nothing to mess with.
Alistair and that Suicune had no issues whatsoever with Mewtwo in that previous game. Let's see if Mewtwo can try to find some type of adjustment. It seemed like Mewtwo, when it tried to get up close to Suicune, couldn't really do anything. Suicune did such a good job of just reading the attacks from Mewtwo and applying that pressure.
Yeah, you know, Mewtwo, one of his best tools in field phase is that homing attack, but it looked like Alistair already had an answer for that. And here it is, Nairo trying to see if he can use the counter attack. He manages to get the Pierce with that Hyper Beam.
Nairo and the Pierce with the Hyper Beam going for the grab. That gets negated. However, Suicune misses on the attack. A nice cross and reversal from Nairo. However, Suicune able to counter that again, Vicky.
And all that patience that we're seeing from Alistair, not rewarded though, as Nairo answers back, switching the phase once again. He's trying to get approach, but wow, fantastic counter, but it's not going to be doing anything.
Nairo showing some signs of life in this second game. However, Suicune knocking back Mewtwo. Suicune hasn't really operated in that zoning mode yet, but that'll do some major damage there. 420 to 115 advantage for Suicune. Gonna knock back Mewtwo, go back into that support Pokemon. Synergy Burst is there for Alistair if he wants to use it.
Synergy Burst is there, and when Suicune uses Synergy Burst, it is a long-range counter. That's something you have to keep into consideration when he's activated in Synergy Burst.
And D1, how about the chip damage that was applied by Suicune with that Synergy Burst? That's going to do some major damage, even if you're Mewtwo trying to block it.
And the projectile was just so hard to even jump over. As you see, it got bigger in burst mode.
First round goes to Alistair and the Suicune. Another victory in this round. That'll be the second game point for Alistair. Meanwhile, Suicune, Mewtwo getting a feel for each other at this point. The nice grab by Suicune. Let's go ahead and shift phases right here. Both players have their support Pokemon ready to go. Meanwhile, now here's Suicune D1 operating in that zone.
Just staying right outside and actually countering that projectile from the top. And there it is. Grab opportunity, should be getting the shift. And this is going to be quite difficult dealing with Suicune here in field phase.
And Alistair is applying so much pressure, understanding that he's getting away with all these grabs because of all the pressure that he has applied to Nairo.
Alistair misses with the support Pokemon, however, some pressure, but no, Mewtwo able to get that ground attack knockback Suicune, but Suicune with a nice little juggle and a combo, and that'll do it right there. But no, 3 health left for Mewtwo, but facing 458 with Suicune, that's going to be a tough hill to climb here, D1.
It just looks like right now Alistair is content to stay back, fire an Aurora Beam, waiting for the opportunity to just take off that last little bit of HP.
And what's interesting is when you try to do that chip damage to end the round, you will stay alive at this point. Mewtwo with the grab and the throw up against the wall, though. Suicune just trying to find that last little hit. Mewtwo regenerating a little bit of health right there, but not enough as Suicune gets the hit on Mewtwo. That'll be the second game point for Alistair. One more game point, and they will claim this 2017 Pokkén Tournament Deluxe Invitational Championship.
As you saw around the end there, he was actually canceling his counter, which is why he kept drifting back, trying to space himself properly so that way if Nairo ever committed to an action, he was always right there to commit after that.
And if you notice right there, Nairo fought his hardest to be able to get inside of the zoning from Alistair, but the moment Alistair was able to find just one slight opening, he dashed right underneath and went to the other side. He's quite content with just zoning.
And D1, what do you make about the support Pokemon choice here for Nairo and Mewtwo? Meanwhile, we've seen Suicune go with the Litten each time.
You know, going with the Frogadier, this is a character that shoots out the water gun, right? And it allows people to apply some pressure. It fires off once, there's a slight gap, and it fires again, allowing you to possibly sneak in the grab sometimes.
Mewtwo and Nairo, though, getting some major damage in those combos and juggles up against the wall. Suicune facing an early deficit in this one, 504 to 257. Suicune, how about those crosses, D1? Jumping over Mewtwo and then coming down with that attack on the backside.
It is just really difficult for Nairo to deal with, and here he is on the defensive, but gets the dive kick right there and some wake-up pressure.
Mewtwo trying to give Suicune a taste of its own medicine, and Litten getting the party started at that point.
And the reason you saw so much damage right there was because Alistair had low HP.
Right now, both fighters just a couple of hits away from a knockout at this point. Alistair and Suicune trying to zone out Mewtwo and Nairo, but Alistair and Suicune, they come back after that deficit early on and able to get the KO. And that Litten support Pokemon, Vicky, completely turned the tide of this match.
Yeah, that was fantastic use of Litten in particular, because when you do have low HP, Litten does deal more damage depending on the HP that you currently have.
How about the confidence of Alistair there, D1, to wait until his health was down low enough to know that Litten was going to connect and do some major damage.
Yeah, that was really smart stuff right there by Alistair. But he finds himself in the corner, and Nairo drops the combo, actually.
And Mewtwo and Nairo doing a fine job this game of keeping Suicune up against the wall. Suicune trying to zone out Mewtwo. Huge advantage right now for Mewtwo, 436 and 117. That's Nairo's Mewtwo, Alistair, Suicune, and right now we see Suicune trying to juggle Mewtwo up against the wall and grabbing the grab right here, Vicky.
Yes, he was able to juggle him against the wall because when Nairo was trying to jump away from him to cross him up, he used an anti-air to prevent that from happening, leaving him against the wall and taking more damage.
Oh, and Nairo and Mewtwo with the victory, and D1. We saw Mewtwo get Alistair and Suicune up against the wall and get those juggles, and that did some major damage early on.
And another thing we should talk about was the counter attack usage right there by Nairo. You can jump over it as it is a shockwave on the ground, but look, he's able to connect with it yet again. And mixing up Alistair with that dive kick, has him in the corner with the cycle cut. He has no answers.
Excellent use of that wall, and Mewtwo gonna go ahead and use the Synergy Burst. Mega Mewtwo right now against Litten. Oh no, Litten connects on that support Pokemon hit. Synergy Burst capable right now for Suicune. However, Suicune gonna counter right there, Vicky.
Yes, because Mewtwo's burst is actually a short-range grab. He was able to take advantage of that situation and turn it around without getting any extra damage from that burst, activating his own burst for an answer towards that.
Here comes Suicune with its burst move. Gonna miss though. Mewtwo does a fine job blocking it. Mewtwo with the corner up against the wall against Alistair and that Suicune. And the grab on Suicune, and that will do it for the round. Very impressive 2 victories. That game point goes to Nairo and Mewtwo. And just when it looked like Alistair and Suicune were gonna run away with it, you had Alistair looking at the jumbo screen. Nairo able to adjust his game and get an impressive victory right there.
Are we going to see a comeback? I think we're going to see a comeback.
Oh, don't call it a comeback. We certainly doing a great job here. It's very exciting. And D1, how about the change in play style for Nairo and Mewtwo? Really getting a lot more pressure in Suicune's face, making things uncomfortable, and really using that wall and some of those juggle combos.
Oh, indeed. You know, it looks like there was a severe lack of block right there from Alistair. You know, I believe he got a little bit too confident and probably thought that Nairo wasn't going to give him, you know, that much trouble. And because of that, Nairo was able to take it. So we'll see what happens here going into the next round.
2-1. Alistair leads. If Alistair wins this game, they will take the match point and the championship of this 2017 Pokkén Tournament Deluxe Invitational. However, Nairo won the last game. Still has plenty of things to say. Facing an early deficit right now, 517 to 331. Advantage, Alistair with that Suicune, but Mewtwo getting some huge damage right there, D1. Able to push back Suicune. Now both fighters kind of just feeling each other out. Mewtwo going up in close for the nice, impressive juggle once again, D1.
And beautiful stuff right there by Nairo. We have Alistair with 157 damage. He has the Poppyo, which gives him a double jump and increased damage.
Mewtwo able to counter that dash attack from Suicune. Suicune, though, trying to get Mewtwo into a combo. Nice little juggle right there to buy some space for Alistair and that Suicune, Vicky.
And this is exactly what you want to see in dual phase. You want to see all the racket percent right there. You want to see all that damage. And immediately when he switches back to field phase, you see all that different types of reverse rolls where they
Mewtwo, though, with that
my
hyper
goodness.
just comes out of nowhere, D1. And right when it seemed like Alistair and Suicune had Mewtwo and Nairo on the ropes, we saw that that combo in the middle of the level that just juggled Mewtwo for so much damage. Mewtwo stayed calm and patient, and with its back up against the wall, unleashed that Hyper Beam. Let's get to the next round in this one. Mewtwo, as we mentioned, had that early victory on Suicune. Now we see Suicune trying to give Mewtwo some juggling up against the wall here, Vicky.
That was a great example of the patience at the end of the game. Nairo did not want to overcommit too much. He held shield, and immediately when he saw that opening, he took advantage of that and took the first round.
Alistair with the early advantage, 426 to 120, trying to get some more damage on Mewtwo, doing a fine job of zoning Mewtwo out right here, D1.
Oh, and here's what I was talking about. So much damage and the ability to double jump right there with Poplio. This is going to change Pokkén Tournament forever.
Well, we saw the support Pokemon of Eevee being used, and that's going to go ahead and buff the attack for Suicune, and Suicune able to land some critical hits during that time that Mewtwo wasn't able to block. When you have that buff at that time, that's when the round goes so quickly, D1.
Oh, indeed, and right here it is again. The zoning from Alistair, but Nairo just getting right inside.
1-1 each on the round. A round victory here for Suicune would claim the championship for Matt, Pat, and Alistair. However, let's see if Nairo and Mewtwo have some other things to say about that to force yet another game. Meanwhile, early advantage right now for Suicune, 433 to 357. Suicune trying to zone Mewtwo at this point. Up in the face, Mewtwo able to rally back, go with that juggle right there, Vicky, and now he's got Suicune on the ropes up against the wall.
Now this is a close range situation. This is not the position where Alistair wants to be, but immediately kind of getting away from Mewtwo and answering his own with Litten.
Alistair trying to get some chip damage, but there's that Hyper Beam yet again. Here comes Synergy Mode for Suicune. Can Suicune land some critical hits? But no, the grab by Mewtwo gonna knock Suicune up against the wall. One sliver of life left for Suicune. Suicune gonna go ahead and use that burst move. Doesn't work though, gets the hit on Mewtwo, 230 to 10. Let's see if Suicune can create something unbelievable here. Oh, it's got Mewtwo up against the wall. This is for the championship if Suicune can counter back, but no!
Not enough!
Mewtwo and Nairo!
Just enough with that chip damage!
With their tournament lives on the line and just 40 health, D1, Mewtwo and Nairo able to stay calm and compose a few breaths and able to force yet another game.
It looks like we're about to go into the final match, if I'm not mistaken.
So here's what's interesting. If Nairo takes the victory,
Yes.
Nairo will get the game point, Nairo versus MatPat in the third match, which could be very interesting. Nothing against MatPat, but he might not be the caliber of player that Alistair is. So, is this essentially the tournament right here for Alistair and MatPat?
Well, it looks like we already have countering the homing attack. With that counter attack from Suicune, he goes forward, and just like I told you before, you can jump over Mewtwo's counter attack. So much damage right now inflicted on Nairo.
Two mythical Pokemon battling it out for the 2017 Pokkén Tournament Deluxe Invitational Championship. Nairo with Mewtwo, Alistair with that Suicune. Right now, Suicune with the 498 to 270 advantage. Support gauge max for both of them. Look at Mewtwo and that Eevee looking for a few buffs here, Vicky, in that attack if he could use that support Pokemon.
Nairo finally able to rack up some damage on Alistair for some time there. I was starting to get a little worried, but it seems like Nairo's holding on to his own right now, pressuring Alistair so hard, switching it back to field phase.
Nairo able to get some pressure up against the wall, but Suicune going to keep Mewtwo at bay, and that is one round victory right here in this decisive game, either forcing a third match in this championship round, or Alistair and MatPat can go ahead and take the victory right now. MatPat getting that 3-0 sweep on JD Witherspoon. Yes, JD, we couldn't let you forget about the sweep. My apologies here. They've got the brooms out. Here we go. 630 to 512. Early advantage right now for Suicune over Mewtwo. Suicune going to miss right there. Mewtwo able to reverse, get a couple attacks behind. Here comes that wall juggle, D1.
And there it is with the wall spell as well, doing an extra 30 HP. And you see right now, Nairo just trying to lock down Alistair, but just moving around and shows no fear when it comes to this homing attack.
A victory here for Alistair will seal the deal in the championship for MatPat and Alistair. Meanwhile, Nairo, Mewtwo trying to force a third round, and if they can, force a third game in the match.
As you saw right there, he was actually able to use low stance to crouch right under that beam.
Alistair and the Suicune trying to get some more attacks on Mewtwo. That's going to be critical right there. 85 health for Mewtwo. Here comes the synergy burst from Suicune. Suicune going to try and time up this synergy move. Is this it? No! Mewtwo able to block, but no! Suicune able to counter the dash attack. And that is your championship. Alistair, MatPat, your champions of the 2017 Pokkén Tournament Deluxe Invitational. Your thoughts on just the way that Suicune was able to close that out?
Well, overall, the zoning was just impeccable right there by Alistair, and his counters to Nairo's zoning with, first off, crouching underneath the hyper beam, using the mirror coat to also send ranged attacks in field phase right back at Nairo, made it very difficult for Nairo in the long range.
Very, very impressive. So as the champions hug it out with our runner-ups, sorry, no participation medals given out here for our runner-ups. There's only one champion here in this tournament. You saw Alistair with that Suicune. How impressive was it for Nairo and the Mewtwo to really battle back? Because we thought Alistair was going to run away this one with Suicune.
Nairo definitely had a lot of mix-ups when it came to his offense. There were times where if he was getting attacked, he would use the side strike, and other times when he was in Alistair's face and you'd expect a grab, he'd go for the dive kick.
So JD and Nairo, you guys didn't win, so I have to politely ask you to leave the stage at this point. Give it up for JD and Nairo. However, Alistair, MatPat, please step to the center of the stage here, Alistair and MatPat, because we have some special guests to present our awards for our champions. Please welcome from the Pokemon Company, Mr. Ishihara, and two developers from Bandai Namco Studios, Mr. Hoshino and Mr. Suzaki, to present the awards to our champions of the 2017 Pokkén Tournament Deluxe Invitational. Please welcome them to the stage.
いいですか。はい。じゃあ、ポッケントーナメントデラックスインビテーショナル優勝おめでとうございます。
Congratulations on your victory here at the Pokkén Tournament Deluxe Invitational.
我々からのプライズをお受け取りください。
We do have a prize to present to you, gentlemen.
おめでとうございます。
Congratulations.
Thank you once again. Now the fun doesn't stop here though. We have one more exhibition match. We have the developers from Bandai Namco Studios, Mr. Hoshino and Mr. Suzaki. They're gonna take on MatPat and Alistair in one exhibition round. So please, Mr. Hoshino, Mr. Suzaki, please step up to the stand here. MatPat, Alistair, please take your side of the screen. Mr. Hoshino, Mr. Suzaki, please come this way. Mr. Hoshino first. And so we've got the developers versus the champions here, D1 and Vicky. What are your thoughts about MatPat, the YouTube personality, taking on someone that developed this game?
I mean, these guys made the game, dude. It's definitely going to be a really interesting situation, seeing how MatPat and Alistair are going up against Hoshino-san and Suzaki-san. Like,
Exactly what D1 said. These are the gentlemen who created Pokkén Tournament. This is just going to be some other level. It's going to take a lot more than just knowing the basic fundamentals to be able to catch them by surprise.
I mean, you know, they still have a pro in Alistair who's on MatPat's side, right? But, I mean, who knows? Like, these guys right now, they don't even look phased that they're going up against Alistair and MatPat. They're like, this is just another day. I mean, we've seen the game way before it's even been released to the masses. So they probably have a couple tricks up their sleeve.
First, taking on MatPat and that Empoleon. So we saw Empoleon, Vicky, with a lot of success, getting in the face of its opponents. However, Krogunk has no problem playing that rush-style play. He's going to want to make sure that he can read and counter very well. So MatPat, this will be exciting, taking on one of the developers here, D1. And if you look at Krogunk right now, doing a fine job of sort of zoning out Empoleon, getting a feel for its attacks, doing a great job blocking as well, too.
Yeah, we're going to see the rush run right now from Empoleon. Actually, wait, getting countered. The Krogunk jumping into the skies, making it very difficult. Mr. Suzaki, look at his Krogunk go. A character who has a lot of RNG when it comes to his special attacks. I wonder if he even knows what's going to happen next.
Mr. Suzaki keeping Empoleon out of range and doing a great job with Krogunk. Krogunk, as we mentioned, can kind of play that all-around style as well, too. And making sure to just keep Empoleon far away and then using those dash attacks. But nice counter there, Vicky, from Empoleon, and the grab from Empoleon also.
Immediately changing the phase, and you know, Krogan actually does excel immensely when it comes to speed. He's incredibly fast, but unfortunately, with that RNG style like he has, he can honestly just deframe himself when it comes to this burst. Oh my goodness, but with another phase shift, he's applying so much pressure right now. Immediately using Litten with his low HP, dealing all that damage as you just saw right there on MatPat.
Mr. Suzaki's a bad man right there, getting the victory over Empoleon, and how about that? Turning it around. That's a little bit of a rope-a-dope right there, D1. Sort of make MatPat feel good about himself, let him know, yeah, kid, I understand you're playing this game, but I developed this thing.
My hands are in my face right now, dude. I can't. I just can't.
Let's get set for the next round here between Empoleon, selected by MatPat, and Krogunk being used by Mr. Suzaki. Mr. Suzaki from Bandai Namco Studios knows everything you need to know about this game right here. Able to jump over the top of Empoleon, and what we're seeing from Krogunk, D1, is a fine job of zoning out Empoleon. Empoleon not having a lot of chances to get in the face of Krogunk and apply some pressure.
Yeah, interestingly enough, while he's using that poison stick, he can't kill the opponent. Oh my gosh!
Did you see that movement?
He's just, you saw him just chilling on the floor as well. Look at him posing.
Krogunk, flex on him, why don't you? 419 to 268 advantage at this point. Krogunk just playing around with Empoleon. Here comes Empoleon using that synergy burst. Here comes the burst move, but I think Krogunk's gonna be in the air and avoids it there, Vicky.
That's exactly what we were talking about earlier, and that's the best way to avoid Empoleon's burst.
Empoleon with the grab against Krogunk, up in the air, gonna knock Mr. Suzaki back though. Mr. Suzaki down 114 to 275. Empoleon with some more pressure right there. Oh, 2 health left for Mr. Suzaki. 1 health, however, nice little crossover. Here comes Krogunk trying to turn the tables here, D1.
Oh my goodness, mixing up his landing, but it's not enough. MatPat taking it over Mr. Suzaki.
The constant, consistent pressure by MatPat towards the second half of that round right there. Vicky able to get the victory, and Mr. Suzaki and MatPat go to a third round to decide this game here.
And did you see around the end how Krogunk extended his pouches on his cheeks to be able to float over the opponent to try to mix up his landing and confuse the opponent?
And here it is right now, chilling out in field phase is Mr. Suzaki, but gets caught right there by MatPat. Let's see MatPat's rush down that he was able to do to JD earlier today.
Mr. Suzaki and Krogunk able to counter right there. 424 deficit though for Mr. Suzaki. However, gonna drop down, get some damage, and look at the debuff that it just applied to Empoleon here, D1.
Yes, right there, the defense is lowered, which means that you're gonna see some more damage off of MatPat whenever Mr. Suzaki strikes.
Meanwhile, Krogunk and that Litten gonna miss with that support Pokemon attack, but here comes the synergy burst from Krogunk. Gonna try and get some massive damage here. Big hit, is this gonna be enough? No, misses with the burst move. However, able to still zone out Empoleon. 341, 113 advantage. Winner of this round wins the game. Empoleon and MatPat trying to fight back. No, Krogunk gonna break through the grab. Flexes on him. 40 health left for Empoleon. Empoleon gonna miss with the swipe. Krogunk going to the air this time. And the crossover by Mr. Suzaki. Stone cold killer. MatPat falling to Mr. Suzaki. Very impressive performance by Krogunk and Mr. Suzaki. And D1, how about Krogunk? Operated by Mr. Suzaki, able to leap into the air, cross over Empoleon at the end of that.
Literally one word, unpredictable. Mr. Suzaki going up against him right there on stage says, you're only gonna get one chance to beat me, and unfortunately you lost. You'll never get to face me again.
Alistair's gonna bat clean up for MatPat and Alistair. Gonna be interesting to see if Alistair goes with that Suicune. Meanwhile, we have Mr. Hoshino. Who will Mr. Hoshino go with here? As you have Alistair, as you talked about before, D1, at the top of this community, and we've seen him play so well with the Mewtwo and a Suicune, but now you're facing off against one of the developers of this game.
Yeah, Hoshino-san definitely might have some tricks up his sleeve as well. We actually have Alistair not going with Suicune.
Interesting.
Okay.
Interesting selection by Alistair. You got to figure he's well-rounded in every single character. But we're going to go back to Gen 1 here for a classic throwdown on the schoolyard of Charizard against Pikachu at this point. Litten going to be chosen for that support Pokemon here, Vicky. And right now, in the foreground, you're going to have Charizard, controlled by Mr. Hoshino. Meanwhile, Alistair going with Pikachu. And Pikachu, one of those players that's a little bit more well-rounded. Meanwhile, our first sort of power player in Charizard here, Vicky.
Charizard really likes to play mid-range, but you also have to take into consideration that he does fly as well, so that could be a way for him to mix up Pikachu. As we saw in the last game, Krone could do the same thing.
Pikachu with a nice juggle right there, gonna back off Charizard. Let's go ahead and shift phases at this point, connecting with a couple of projectiles here, and really what we've seen from Alistair, D1, is a fine job of taking advantage of that field phase.
Yeah, and it looks like he's not even afraid of the Fire Punch, which is an option that Charizard does have. Here it is. Great follow-up by Alistair, taking that first round over Hoshino-san.
Pikachu and Alistair taking that round. If they can get this round, they'll go ahead and take that game here, Vicky.
And we saw all that pressure from Alistair because Pikachu in particular plays very close range and is incredibly fast. And when he's in mid-range, it's a little bit difficult for him to rack up all that extra damage. But we're not really seeing that too much right now. He's gonna have to try to bring this back.
Charizard with the grab and the throw. It's going to do some major damage on Pikachu. 600, 266. Let's serve it up again right here, D1.
Yes, absolutely. Mr. Hoshino has that tech. Keep your eyes open.
Mr. Hoshino. Huge advantage over Alistair and that Pikachu. Let's see if Pikachu can bounce back, though, trying to get the cross. Blocked by Charizard. Charizard going to knock back Pikachu. Charizard bringing down some pain. However, Charizard with the third grab of the match. Mr. Hoshino, unbelievable, able to keep Alistair at bay and connect on not one,
yes,
not two, but 3 grabs in that round.
Absolutely, you can tell this guy is a master of rock, paper, scissors, or janken, as they would say as well. This is out of control. Using the grabs to beat the counterattack, getting extra damage because it is a critical hit. Here we have third round with Alistair versus Hoshino-san.
Do you think Alistair's a little starstruck at this point? Maybe that's getting into his head, maybe throwing him off possibly.
I mean, I would be.
Pikachu getting some early pressure on Charizard. Winner of this round will decide the game between Mr. Hoshino and Alistair. Meanwhile, Charizard getting that block, getting the hit on Pikachu. Pikachu, though, able to try and counter. Charizard doing a fine job of reading and blocking there, Vicky.
And it seemed like that for a little bit, that Alistair was going to be able to maneuver himself around Mr. Hoshino, but it isn't enough assist coming, so another grab from Mr. Hoshino. How is he going to avoid this?
Mr. Hoshino has Alistair seeing stars with all of these grabs right now. Charizard able to deal and try to get through a couple of tough projectiles. Meanwhile, Pikachu connects with the counter, though, and Pikachu able to knock Charizard back. Let's shift phases here. Pikachu, light, nimble, mobile. Charizard trying to get in his mug. Meanwhile, Mr. Hoshino down to 146. Let's get some Mega Charizard X here. Mega Charizard trying to put some pressure. Here comes Linton. Oh, that's going to connect on Charizard, knock it back. 99 health for Mr. Hoshino. Here comes Pikachu in burst mode. Let's see if Pikachu can connect with that burst move right here. Here comes Poplio using some support Pokemon health. Pikachu still in burst mode. Charizard getting some attacks here. Charizard with a little bit more health and a couple of boosts right here too, D1.
But right there, that counter from that Fire Punch, and it looks like it's getting really intense here. The dive kick, the conversion!
Mr. Hoshino battles back and gets the victory over Alistair. How impressive was that, D1?
I mean, Mr. Hoshino, what did I tell you? What did I tell you? The man is one of the developers right here, the directors of the game. He knows a lot about the game. When it came to the mix-ups, it looks like Alistair's Pikachu just couldn't do it. He was getting caught by many seismic tosses. You saw him go for that tail whip every time, going into the flight, and then just immediate seismic toss. It was super, super difficult to deal with. And right now we have Alistair seeing stars, just like Jordan said before.
We were talking about being starstruck, but my goodness, I was incredibly starstruck just by watching that. I can't believe how Alistair may feel right now.
Oh, definitely. But a big thank you to Ishihara-san, Suzaki-san, and Hoshino-san for bringing Pokkén Tournament Deluxe to the Switch. We are thankful.
Very impressive right there. They get their artwork, their awards. Give it up for Mr. Hoshino, Mr. Suzaki, Matt, Pat, Alistair, your champions of the 2017 Pokkén Tournament Deluxe Invitational. Stick around, we got the Arms Open Invitational coming later today. Give it up one more time for them.